We are all longing to go home to some place we have never been, a place half remembered and half envisioned, we can only catch a glimpse of from time to time. Community. Somewhere there are people to whom we can speak with passion without having the words catch in our throats. Somewhere a circle of hands will open to receive us. Eyes will light up as we enter. Voices will celebrate with us whenever we come into our own power. Community means strength. Means strength that joins with our strength to do the work that needs to be done. Arms to hold us when we falter. A circle of healing. A circle of friends. Somewhere where we can feel free. Thus ends the reading.
Well, good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Church of Evanston. Barb reminds me that my first time I said the Unitarian Church of Evidence, but could be true. I'm Bob Mesle. I'm your worship associate, working along with our guest minister today, Rev Pamela Rumancik, who is, yes, go for it. Pam is a poet, a hospice chaplain, a gardener who has lots of zucchini right now, and mother of 3 adult children who is retired from serving the Unitarian Church in Hinsdale. She is married to Rev Karen Mooney, who is not unknown to us. Yay. Pam has spiritual roots in Catholicism and is now an initiate into the Sufi tradition, about which I want to learn more sometime. Pam's deepest commitments are to remembering the divine in each being and in finding ways to open conversation with folks who see the world differently. Whether this is your spiritual home or you are newly discovering, I know there's somebody here newly discovering, hi Eugene, this community, it is good to share this time with you together. We strive to be an inclusive and welcoming community, seeking truth in love and nurturing the human spirit for a world made whole. We are guided by our principles and values which remind us in every moment and in every challenge that each of us is worthy to be loved and that all of us are connected through the vast and beautiful web of existence. We come together to remember our kinship with one another and to hold one another in heart and mind with tenderness and careful attention. If you are joining us online, hi, there are many kinds of connections in the description which are below the YouTube stream, including the order of service credits, ways to support our mission, and how to join our email newsletter list. If you're in the sanctuary, we encourage you to use the QR code for the digital order of service, but we have real menus also, or to take part and use one of the large print orders of worship, which are in the lobby, and also hymnals are available outside those doors. We also have an inductive loop system for anyone wearing a hearing aid that is equipped with a T-coil. Your hearing aid should automatically connect if you enable the T-coil system. For those who do not have a T-coil enabled hearing aid, we have receivers that can pick up the loop signal, and you can listen through earphones, and they are located on the table right out there. One announcement. The UU the Vote team is gearing up for the next election cycle. Virginia's general election is November 7th, so we will be sending postcards to potentially disenfranchised voters in Virginia through August to be mailed before their early voting period starts. Please see Shirley Adams and Greg Rubatsky and Reverend Susan if you want to get involved with the UU the vote team. Okay. And now let us settle into our shared time of reflection, inspiration, and celebration. As we begin our worship service, and those joining us online are invited to gather your own chalice as we join in beloved community. Welcome to worship. Barbara and I have a disc with a Tony Bennett version of that by our bed and listen to it almost every night. It's fabulous. Thank you, Greg. Yeah. The Unitarian Church of Evanston, as you know, resides on land that was recorded as being transferred from the local Potawatomi community to the U.S. government in 1829, shortly before the Potawatomi in this area were forcefully removed west of the Mississippi. This land was then sold to white settlers. We remember also the minds and bodies of the black people who built up our country's culture and economy, a role forced on them originally by enslavement. We are indebted to their labor and their resilience in 1619, acknowledging the tremors of violence throughout the generations and the resulting impact that we still witness today. These acknowledgments are one small effort toward building long-term solidarity with contemporary communities. We commit ourselves to take what we learn here today and incorporate it into our lives and our thoughts into actions. Please join in our shared words of commitment, which I believe are here. We name these realities with honor for all the ancestors, respect for our descendants, and gratitude for the land we use as sacred space. Shirley Adams brought our flowers this morning, thank you, Shirley, in recognition of the ongoing UU The Vote initiative. As she and members of the UU The Vote team light our chalice, symbol of our living tradition, please join in saying the words on the screen by Thomas Berry. We bear the universe in our beings as the universe bears us in its being. The two have a total presence to each other and to that deep mystery out of which both the universe and ourselves have emerged. Thank you. Please rise in body and spirit and join in saying the words of our covenant, also on the screen. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Before we sing our opening hymn, I invite those online to greet each other in the chat, and those in the sanctuary to turn to one another briefly, say good morning, perhaps to find someone you don't know who's close to you, and chat for just a moment. Please stay after the service and continue your conversations, especially with folks you don't know very well. Let's keep building kinship among us. So please remain risen in body or spirit in joining our opening hymn, number 360, Here We Have Gathered. On here, Adam. There we go. Great. Okay. I get to read this story today. I'm so excited because Kathy's camping, so I get to read this story. Okay. All right. Are we ready? Okay. Yeah. The Family Book by Todd Parr. Ready? Woohoo. Yeah.
Some families are big, and some families are small. Some families are the same color. Woo-hoo. Yep. Are we? Yes, we are. Yeah. Some families are the same color, and some families are different colors. Right? Some families live near each other, and some families live far from each other. Ooh. All families like to hug each other. I think my music stand and I are interfering with the signal here. Here we go. Where are we at? Up there. Yeah. Oh, here's the slide we can't miss, though. Where we go? Wait a minute. Sorry. Yeah, some families look alike. Like this one. Wait a minute. Some families look like their pets. We have such a cute dog, it's hard to go wrong with that one, okay? All families are sad when they lose someone they love. Poor goldfish. Some families have a stepmom or stepdad and stepsisters or stepbrothers. Some families adopt children. Some families have 2 moms or 2 dads, and some families have 1 parent instead of 2. Yep. Yeah. All families like to celebrate special days together. Woohoo! Some families eat the same things, and some families eat different things. Yeah, different things. Some families like to be quiet. And some families like to be noisy. Woohoo! And some families have both. Some families like to be clean. Yep. And some families like to be messy. Some families live in a house by themselves. Looks like Peppa Pig's house to me. Some families share a house with other families. All families. All families can help each other be strong. There are lots of different ways to be a family. Our family, your family, is special, no matter what kind it is. Love, Todd.
I invite us now into a period of quiet reflection. Settle into your chairs, put your feet on the ground as we share our joys and sorrows. If you have a joy or sorrow you would like spoken aloud, you may write it in the book, the back of our sanctuary, or you may submit it through a Google form before the service on the homepage, or you can email one of the ministers. We listen to these offerings with tenderness and respect. Let us all quiet our bodies and our voices during this sacred time, breathing in together and breathing out together. These are the joys and sorrows that have been shared before our service today. Bob Mesle's sister, Nancy, is 6 months into her 12 months breast cancer treatment. Nancy's husband had a serious heart attack 2 weeks ago. but they're both doing a bit better and staying calm. This is a sacred space for our tender offerings, and it is a usual practice of our beloved community. Together we expand our celebrations and we lessen the burdens of grief. You're invited now to come forward and light one of the candles at either of these side tables, or if you'd like a candle lit and you can't come up, you can raise your hand and Reverend Susan will come to you. I invite you to begin our Joys and Sorrows candle lighting. Please join me in saying our words at the end. For all these joys, we give our thanks. For these sorrows, we give our love. Join me now in a time of prayer and meditation. We sit together and I tell you things, silent, unborn, naked things that only my God has heard me say. You do not cluck your tongue at me or roll your eyes or split my heart into 1,000 pieces with words that have little to do with me. You do not turn away because you cannot bear to see your own unclaimed light shining in my eyes. You stay with me in the dark. You urge me into being. You make room in your heart for my voice. You rejoice in my joy. And through it all, you stand unbound by everything but the still, small voice within you. I see my future self in you, just enough to risk moving beyond the familiar, just enough to leave the familiar in the past where it belongs. I breathe you in and I breathe you out, in one luxurious and contented sigh. In sweet company, I am home at last. As we sing our response, our young people, preschool through 6th, are invited to head to their faith formation time with their adult leaders. Please join in singing Comfort Me.
As we say in our covenant each Sunday, service is our law. UCE is called by our mission, values, and principles to contribute to our community, to form accountable relationships, and to express gratitude through giving. Today's offering will be shared with one of our long-standing partners, Community Newell Society, whose mission is to bring people of faith and congregations together in partnership with communities, coalitions, interfaith organizations, and civic leaders to intentionally and decisively transform society toward greater social justice at the intersection of racism and poverty. You may text to give, mail in a check, or give from our website. If you write a check, be sure to write on the memo line of your check if it's for the shared offering or some other purpose. We take cash, too. The ushers will now come forward to pass the collection bowls down the rows. Please give generously as you are able, and may what you give bring you joy.
This is a song that some of you know if you've been in the choir. Some of you know if you've been in services where it's sung. It's a very, very simple song. And I'm going to encourage you to join it however you can or however you feel today. If singing is your jam, then feel free to join me. If sitting and listening is your jam for music and that's how you appreciate song, then sit and let it wash over you. But take it in however it is that you can. Later on in the song, we'll sing some words that are draw the circle wide. And I trust that you will pick up on them and sing whatever ones you want, right? It doesn't matter what words come out of our mouth. What matters is how we embody the music that we present in the world. Draw the circle, draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. No one stand always, stand side by side. Draw the circle.
Thank you. And thanks to all of you for your generosity. I'd like to do 2 readings provided by Rev Pam. The first is from Star Breath by Joyce Rupp, and the second, A Closed and Common Orbit by Becky Chambers. Star Breath. With the first sigh of the evening star, my heart responds to a distant touch, a wisp of recognition, a waft of joy. Life-giving breath of the galaxy sails through the heavens into my grasping, yearning spirit, uniting me in the marrow of my soul. Star breath washes over me like God breath, filling the soul of a new creation, awakening my soul's withered bones, lifting them into the lightness and dance. I open my small, isolated self to the stars and am once again healed of my disparity, the falsehood of my separate self. By Becky Chambers. Life is terrifying, and none of us has a rule book. None of us knows what we're doing here. So the easiest way to stare reality in the face and not utterly lose your mind is to believe that you have control over it. If you believe you have control, then you believe you're at the top. And if you're at the top, then other people who aren't like you, well, they have to be somewhere lower, right? Every species does this, does it again and again and again. Doesn't matter if we do it to ourselves or to another species or someone they created. Thus end the readings.
That was great reading. I'm glad. Last summer, my wife Karen and I were driving across country to our daughter's wedding when we were listening to a book called The Long Way to a Short, Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. Now, this book made us laugh and made us cry, and it was just an excellent thing to listen to. And it was kind of, we got it by accident, so we were really happy we found it. Let's see if it comes up. Yeah? There it is. It's the story of a crew of a spaceship called the Wayfarer that cuts holes through the fabric of space in order to create shortcuts that improve the commerce throughout the galactic community. It's not a fancy exploring ship. It's more of a road work ship. And they spend their whole lives living on this scrapped-together piece of metal that does run-of-the-mill work that pays okay. And the story is told from the perspective of Rosemary. And she's a human in a landscape where humans only exist as a remnant of a small group who left the Earth when it became uninhabitable due to the environment. We can picture that, right? So Rosemary joins a crew, let's see, there it comes, that includes 4 humans that have a Captain Ashby, Tex, Kizzy, Jenks, and Corbin, Sissix, who is the Andrisk pilot, a Grum named Dr. Chef, a Cyanat pair called Ohan, and an AI named Lovey. Now they all stick together and they find ways to support each other despite the differences that they all have. And those differences can make them uncomfortable. But it was Chambers' description of how they responded to different situations that was both eye-opening and enjoyable for Karen and I. And I just recently finished her book called The Galaxy and the Ground Within. And she has this amazing knack for imagining these entire places where different species with vastly different physiologies, different languages, different experiences, all manage to get along and support sustainable life for everyone. And I feel her when I'm reading her addressing really specific blockages in myself and being able to envision different possibilities for here just by reading about these aliens out there. I think that's what good sci-fi does for us, doesn't it? You know, that's why we have such huge fans. It helps us to see what we don't see. Because if you've never met an alien, well, then you don't have any built-in presuppositions or prejudices. One of the storylines involves Rosemary and Sussex. Rosemary notices that Sussex is always way more cuddly and physically affectionate than humans are, and she finds it a little bit odd. But eventually they grow to be friends, and they go to visit Sussex Holmes' planet, and when they get some time off from the ship. And Rosemary is surprised by how much resistance she feels rising up in her body, because as soon as they arrive, Sussex' whole family, like 20 people, pile out, and they jump into this giant, wriggling, cuddling, snuggling puppy pile, but it's a lizard pile, of people loving each other. And some of them even get so excited they break apart to couple. And this is really normal stuff for this species. This is exactly how they always behave, so it's great. But it gets Rosemary feels uncomfortable, and then it makes her really start thinking. She realizes if this is what home is to Sussex, then the culture on the ship where she spends all her time must feel really sterile and antiseptic when the most you get is a pat on the shoulder. Because humans don't touch as much as androids do. And she starts to wonder how she can adjust her own level of comfort to be able to support her friend. And they start to have some real conversations about the disparities and the ways they can bridge both expectations and needs on both sides. Rosemary realizes that Sussex has been doing all of the adjusting so far, and that's not fair. Rosemary doesn't stop being human. She just adjusts her behavior to become more welcoming to another being. Oops. My whole thing just disappeared. There it is, thank goodness. Technology. Okay. Oh gosh. You know, technology is never my friend. There we go. It was a good break anyway. So there's a story of two fish swimming along. And as they're swimming along, chatting, an older fish comes swimming from the other direction. And that fish says, "How's the water, boys?" And they keep swimming along for a couple minutes. And finally, one of the boys says to the other, "What the heck is water?" Many of us exist without ever noticing the water that we swim within. And it often takes an outside source, maybe sci-fi, maybe something else, to open our eyes and let us see what's been there all along. All of us, we find ourselves in a new moment in history. There are tremendous changes going on in the world around us, in our country, in the earth. Even definitions of what church is seem to be changing as we really come to terms with the aftermath of the pandemic and see regular reminders of the climate changing around us. We know in our heads that the only thing permanent is change and that we're in the midst of it, but sometimes our bodies have a little bit of hard time keeping up with all of that. But being in this space might be exactly the place that we need to help us open up and see things that we could never see before. I'm going to give you an example. It's kind of silly. I grew up in a working class Catholic community, and I never even suspected that I might be queer until I was well into my 40s. It wasn't within the range of options that I had, so I didn't see it. I mean, Ellen helped, but it wasn't there in front of me. Honestly, I thought that they used beautiful women in advertising because we're all attracted to beautiful women, right? And that crush I had on my jazzercise instructor, that was just normal. Or not. But even when I opened myself up enough to go to seminary, I still couldn't see what I couldn't see, because the seminarian intern at the church, at my home church, she invited me out to dinner with a bunch of her friends when she learned that I'd been admitted to Meadville Lombard Theological School. And it was exciting, and I was nervous, especially when I realized that everybody else at the dinner party was gay. They were fun and they were smart and so warm and welcoming, but I was acutely aware that I was not like them. I was in a room full of queer people. I finally knew what it meant to be in a minority. And when I mentioned this observation to the intern, she stared at me like I was from another planet. It was just a room full of people. I still have a tinge of embarrassment, even though I've told this story many times, because I realized in that moment that it was me that was othering the people in the room. I was bringing something with me that did not exist for any of them. It's hard to see the water in our bowl. Life is a transition, an onward journey from one reality to another, whether we're conscious of it or not. And as we've been trying, Unitarian Universalist, we've been trying to make this transition into being a more welcoming and more open reality, one that makes room for perspectives and lived realities that are different than the status quo. But this vision is being preached for 30, 40, 50 years? And Sunday mornings are still the most segregated time of the entire week. And it's not because we're bad people. And it's not because we haven't tried. And it's certainly not because we don't value diversity in the abstract. But I think it's maybe because we start at the wrong end. We start with thinking that we have to get people that we see as other into our pews. Too many times we push for diversity, but we have no idea what actual diversity would ask of us. We want people with different shades of melanin, different pronouns, different family recipes, but we really want them to fit into what is comfortable. It's normal. Humans long for a sense of belonging, for being seen and being welcomed, even if we have to give up a little bit of ourselves. The question is, how much should we have to give up? At my first UU church, there was a huge culture of classical music, and I've always been more of a folk and bluegrass girl myself. But I would nod when people were going on enthusiastically about some piece of music that I found meh. And I did my best to pass and to fit into this group of seekers who I felt such kinship with as seekers of spiritual truth. And that's really normal, right? We all have to give up something. There's a give and take for every part of any community. But there is a limit to how much someone might be willing to give up in order to fit in. Sussex may have been willing to give up a lot for her work, but she was still so thrilled when Rosemary was willing to stretch herself so that she felt more welcome within that space. Often we want that readily apparent diversity. We want to be cool. We also want church to remain comfortable like it's always been. Please join us, but don't expect that we're going to change very much. And I've wrestled with this at previous churches that I served. The way people of color or young people or anybody that seems a little bit different, other, they're surrounded by well-wishers, well-intentioned church members saying, we want you to be welcome, we want to be welcome, so they'll stay. But that welcome ends up being only skin deep. And the folks who are willing up to give some part of themselves up, for that kinship, they stay on. But the others come to a few services, a few events, and then realize there isn't room for the whole of who they are, and they move on. I mean, I thought I had to become a minister to get folk music played in my services. What's going on with all of this? Why is it so darn difficult to create the wide community we want? Well, academic and poet Bayo Akomolafe describes a new way of seeing that he calls post-activism, decolonialization, and transracial. He's also known for saying, the times are urgent. Let us slow down. The times are urgent. Let us slow down. Who wouldn't want to slow down? When I heard those words, I was intrigued. Coming out of Nigeria, Akomolafe sees the differences between the races with a different twist. He says whiteness is a field, a perspective, a way of being in the world that flattens and takes away the rich contours of life to allow people to feel safe and in control. He says it's about believing that if we have enough control, we can feel comfortable all the time. And it holds within it a judgment of difference of anything that might disrupt that promise of sanctuary. Becky Chambers wrote, if you believe you have control, then you believe you're at top. And if you're at the top, then the people who aren't like you, well, they're somewhere lower, right? That fits my experience of whiteness. Akomolafe says that blackness is a field resisting this flattening. Blackness pushes for the fullness of life, for all the emotions, not just the easy ones. It's an acknowledgement that life is hard, and that no matter what the advertisers promise, we are all going to suffer at some point. He acknowledges that we all live in bodies that are recognized as black or brown or white, and that recognition changes our experience in the world. But we can also make a conscious choice to be part of either field, the illusion of control or the act of resistance. Everyone born into this country is born into the field of whiteness as the default, even if it means code shifting for people with different skin colors, acting white to fit in. And whiteness is that lie that says if we are just good enough, if we just follow all the rules, if we just know the right people, own the right things, drive the right cars, we can control our lives and we can stay safe. Akomolafe says that people with black skin can also inhabit the white field, and that his home country of Nigeria very much leans into a flattening of life, even though it has the highest per capita population of dark-skinned people. I think it's what's driving a lot of those white folks to ban books and restrict certain histories from being taught, because they believe that lie that says they never have to feel bad, and they're working with all their might to maintain a system that allows comfortable ignorance. Akomolafe's work opens up for me a huge place of possibility. If whiteness and blackness are simply fields that can be inhabited by anyone, if they are perspective and a worldview rather than a divine and unchangeable part of who we are, then we have the freedom to choose how we are going to live in this world. And then we can identify those places that we act from whiteness, and we can reevaluate, does this truly serve who I want to be? Does shutting down my emotions, just tightly following the rules, does avoiding discomfort, is that the life that I want? Because, it takes a lot of energy to press down those extra emotions that we don't want to have. Like out in the monoculture farm fields, it takes a lot of poison to kill off anything else that's growing in those fields. It's no wonder that our country is filled with so many angry and depressed people. But what if we stopped? What if we stepped into that field of resistance? What if we accepted the whole of every human without trying to make them be like us? I'm going to show you just a quick example of flattening in real life. A person I know belongs to a chorus, and they've been trying to become more diverse over the years, and they've formed committees, and they've held talking circles, and they've read a ton of books and watched a ton of movies, and even changed their bylaws to become more welcoming. And this is a chorus, mind you, not a church. And they made progress. A few women of color have joined the chorus, and they've expanded their range to sing more songs written by women of color. But at a rehearsal, the conductor tried to go off book as she led them through a song. And it was written by a black woman, and she wanted it to break it out of the tightly written rhythms and get the feel that she knew was there. But she got tremendous pushback from the white women in the chorus, so much so that she just threw in the towel. She said, fine, we'll sing it, we'll do it as written. And it was only afterwards that she realized that the black women in the chorus had all been going, yeah, let's try that, let's go that way. Let's see what happens. Whiteness at work expected to follow the rules, but blackness wanted to add some wiggle room from the written notation. Maybe maybe even sound a little bit different, and think that would be okay. What if our congregation stopped worrying about how many people with different skin tones or genders or even ages came into the building and started making space for the fullest range of all of our human beingness? What if we start living so fully and so joyfully, embracing all the sorrow and all the pain that each of us holds, all the messiness of what it means to be human, that other people on the outside looked in and said, I want that too. We would be beating them away. We wouldn't be trying to pull them in the doors because they're going, I want to live someplace where my whole self is welcome. I want to live someplace where all of the human emotions are welcome. And it doesn't start out there. It doesn't start with our welcoming committee. It starts right in here. It starts by being part of the resistance and by noticing the times we shut down our own inner needs in order to fit in. Rosemary and Sussex grew deep in open relationship once Rosemary was able to see what might be needed by her friend. It was a blessing that neither of them ever would have had if they had each stayed safe and comfortable and not been brave enough to have that conversation with each other. In the end, we are all a bunch of aliens on a big blue planet gliding through space, with each of us bringing our own unique perspectives, gifts, talents to this world. They should all be welcome. And embracing those alien qualities in ourselves might be the first step in seeing the wholeness of all the people around us. I'm going to close with words from that famous alien with pointy ears. Live long and prosper.
So that means if I cry a little bit now, you're not going to be nervous, right? Anybody that's seen me perform knows that my heart is open when there are truths that are so deeply rooted that they can't find anywhere else outside but through the tears that might flow, right? So know that if I am crying, if you hear this in my voice, that what it means is I'm offering you my deepest truth. What if we imagined that that was what happened when anybody around us did something that made us uncomfortable? They are offering me their deepest truth. Don't whisper guilty or your suspicions. If you must say that, then say it to my face. 'Cause in dark corners someone still keeps a tally of who is like them been so far. I cannot accept who you are. We build our freedoms on the bones of another. Oh, bend like the reed and like the willow, for the winds of change will tear you from the ground. Stand up proud and tall, let the sun shine down on us all. Each one of us wakes and moves. We love, we talk, we dream. I can only be like me. You can only be like you. Oh, life's too short, let's embrace it while we can. You see, one size fits no one at all. One way means each of us must fall. Let's build our freedoms, standing next to and not in front of, and not below and not behind, and certainly not above each other.
Hope you noticed that Karen wrote that song too. As we extinguish the chalice, please join in saying the words on the screen by Elizabeth L. Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Please rise in body and or spirit and join in singing our closing hymn, that wonderful Blue Boat Home.
All you can do, Rosemary, all any of us can do, is work to be something positive. That's a choice that every sapient must make every day of their lives. The universe is what we make of it. It's up to you to decide what part you will play. Thus ends the service.
It'll be fine. Nobody's going to slip on it at least. We'll get a couple paper towels.
There's some napkins here.